Welcome. Thanks for joining this last episode of Sensedia Talks. We're live at APIX 2025, our 10th anniversary, and the absolute most incredible API show anywhere in the world, coming at you from WTC in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I am so excited about today's episode. I'm Lisa Arthur. I am the SVP of US for Sensedia and our Global Chief Marketing Officer. And I'm joined by two incredible people. I'm going to have them introduce themselves. Paolo, our Chief Strategy Officer. Paolo, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. My name is Paolo Malinverno. I run corporate strategy for Sensedia. I have a long past in this industry. I have been with Gartner for a very long time, and about 23 years writing Magic Quadrants and Hype Cycle, chairing conferences. So it's good to be here because that's what I'm going to bring to this table.
That's great. Thank you, Paolo. I'm also joined today by Filipe Torqueto, who's a partner in crime of mine in the US, heading up US solutions. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. I am Filipe Torqueto, and I'm the head of solutions for the US market for Sensedia, working with this company for 7 years now. It's my 6th APIX already. So very nice to see everybody again at this podcast and this major event again.
So you're the vet at the table because this is my 4th APIX, and I think maybe, Paolo, you're third. So no pressure. And I will call him Torqueto because that's how we roll here in Brazil. All right, so let's dive in. I want to talk today, and we're going to dive in on the trust paradox, how outdated technology is eroding the trust of credit unions' members. That's a bold statement to open up this podcast with. And I want to share a personal story that will frame the discussion. Several months back, my husband and I decided we were disenchanted with our Big Four bank, and we decided we wanted to begin moving our money to a credit union. We were both part of the movement in the early 80s, and we wanted to go back. So trust breach number one, when I signed up with a new credit union, a big credit union, I get served up a third-party data sharing agreement. I don't know who this brand is. This article made me think, or the agreement, am I getting screen scraped? What's going on? Red flag number one. Trust breach number two, I went to move money from my Big Four into this new credit union. In 2025, there was no way to do it. None. Now, I'm a 63-year-old grandmother, and if that experience is unacceptable for me as a new credit union member, how is it for the Gen Z, the next generation of credit union members? That's what we're going to talk about. I had broken trust, and that's the trust paradox, because credit unions have been built on community, on trust, on collaboration. And outdated technology is eroding that dynamic. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I share that personal story because both of you are looking at the technology landscape in the US in credit unions, and we really want to dive into this. So my first question, and I'm going to ask both of you and then have you round robin it, if you will. We've been engaging with credit union leaders in the US for over the last year. We're working and talking about open banking, improving the friction they feel with integration. And I'm keen to hear your perspectives on the trust breaches I had. What do you think it's going to take to change this dynamic? Paolo, would you lead us off?
Okay. Well, it's a trust breach at many levels. In the sense, yes, there is technology involved, but before technology is involved, well, why didn't they tell you that there was a third party? Today we are living in a world of instant communications. you are reachable through several channels, maybe not the secure channels that banks in general and financial institutions want. But, if it's to tell you, look, when you sign up, this is what is going to happen, doesn't take much, right? So there is a breach, I think, at organizational level before technology. Now, when that happens, the technology breach feels worse because you feel that, oh yeah, well, you get this agreement to sign. You feel that if you don't sign it, you're not going to go anywhere. Okay. So you say, well, look, so I'm kind of bullied into doing this thing, but I don't want my data to go into the hands of a third party I don't know. Now, if I wanted to work with another third party, and then I'm asked, do you really want to work with that third party? And I would say, yes, that's fine, I'm happy. But it's this kind of feeling of, what is going on here? Mm-hmm. Somebody's making money on me, because there's always that in the back of your mind, somebody making money on my data, am I part of a mega statistic, So to me, the failure really is a failure of privacy, mm-hmm. or privacy, as we say in Europe. But is it at that level first, and then, how do we fix it? It's not the end of the world. Okay, simple email saying this is what is going to happen. We'll probably fix most of it. Okay, and then obviously, we're expert in integration technologies, so we can fix all the pipelines that make all the data travel the right way and the security associated to that. But that's kind of, I'm not saying it's easy because it's not, but is something that can be done, in a fairly straightforward way.
Thank you. Torqueto, what do you think?
Let me push the technology now. As a good architect.
That's the door I've opened.
Yeah. So credit unions are not old, but the software that they are using, it's kind of outdated, right? And they are relying on those third parties, which probably they make money over data, which worth money, right? So this is a problem this is a friction problem. First, you're open up an account with a credit union, and this credit union is transfer you to a third party that you don't know. So there's friction. In some perspective, you can lose the customer right there. So you are adding friction. And this is a very simple technology problem to solve if you own your technology. And this is the paradox. So parts of the credit union don't own their technology. And they assume that the open banking paradox, which is almost a bad word now. So, open banking, oh my God, it's open banking. So open banking and owning an open banking strategy means less friction, less third parties in the middle of your customers and you. Credit union members' data, right? So you own you own your members' data. You're not going to transfer this to a third party, right? And technology can enable, and it's not that hard, right? So modernizing legacy becomes a very complex and bad word, especially for credit unions that don't have the talent to do it. And I divide those third parties into third parties that want to hold credit unions like a third party and make them depend on them, and the third parties that want to free the credit unions from those burdens, to have them and to really back them to this technology and enable them to actually do open banking, which is owning your strategy remove friction for your members, and in fact, share data in and out, because a customer, a credit union member, will have banking accounts in the Big Four. They will have banking accounts in other institutions. It's natural. Digital banks, digital wallets, come on, it's 2025, right? I have it, you have it, Paolo have it. We travel all around the world. So we are looking for the best service. Credit unions have this community-centric, which it's being divided by a third party. Why? It's all about community and trust. So I start the journey of my member by bringing the trust. So just because I want to have a third party because I don't want to own my strategy, right? It's not rocket science. Open bank is not a rocket science. A bunch of APIs, right?
And what you do with them.
Exactly. But here's the thing. It's not rocket science.
No, but I mean, can I say one thing about open banking being a bad word?
Sure.
It's a bad word until banks start realizing they can make money on it.
Exactly.
Then it becomes a really good word.
Yeah.
I think that is an excellent segue into how open banking could help solve the trust paradox, right? Because 8 months later, that bad experience with that credit union happened 8 months ago. I still have a zero account balance. Open banking would have allowed me to move money from my Big Four into that credit union, and I would be an active member now, right? And we see credit union membership declining around the US. So help our listeners understand what open banking does for a credit union to change the game.
Oh gosh, many things. But first of all, transferring money into an account, it's pretty basic thing. Okay.
But in 2025, it's still an issue.
Okay. But I mean, you need probably 2 or 3 APIs to transfer money from one bank to another. Okay. Now today, this is done in a very antiquated way, not using APIs, obviously with decent security applied. But that is exactly the point. If we keep using that, we are saying goodbye to customers. And it's not only about transferring money, because if I am a banking user, well, I might be a kind of a particularly special and demanding one. But, an average banking user might see, a fintech app, which might be about, I don't know, it's about investing small amounts of money and then, giving you back, some interest, in a short term. So I like that, So this user that likes to do that, if from his bank can say, listen, it's okay to send a few hundreds to these other people, just go ahead. I give you the consent. Hey, all of a sudden, you have a credit union member who can use a fintech. Okay? So that's what he can do. So open banking can help you keeping the customers and actually getting new ones. A lot of financial institutions I speak to all over the world, really, they say, open banks. Open? Oh God, no. We are the custodians of people's money. We don't want people to take the money out, and we have to protect our customers. In reality, you don't protect them. You close doors for them, and they want those doors open. And if the doors are not open, they're going to go. Okay, so that's what open banking does. It helps you keeping the customer, because as a credit union especially, you can't give all of your members all the experiences they want. So if you open up, you can actually integrate them. You can actually give more services to your customers and what's wrong with that? Yes, obviously there is some investment to do, but what is the damage of losing customers? What is the reputation damage of a member who would like to be an active member and 8 months later still has a zero balance? What is the damage of that? The reputational damage. Yeah. Okay. That's priceless.
I think you bring up a really interesting point about keeping and growing the customers versus losing. At the 2024 FDX Global Summit for Open Banking, we had the pleasure of having Sicredi, the largest and oldest credit union in Brazil, present to the U.S. financial service companies. And what they said was there was no mass exodus. They actually had increased deposits. They were able to expand their credit limits, all because of, and they took open banking further into open finance. Now, you know a lot about Sicredi, and you also know the U.S. market. What's your perspective?
There's one thing, cash flow underwriting. Right? Everybody's talking about cash flow underwriting. Sicredi is the use case for cash flow underwriting. Sicredi is serving underserved members for cash flow underwriting at millions. So they are doing in Brazil what I see credit unions in the US can do easily: serve the underserved and increase immensely this sort of market. Credit union is all about community. And they can use those services, sit down in the open banking perspective to actually increase their services and to better serve. So Sicredi, based on open banking data, know their members like no one else. They know who is paying, who is not paying. They know for whom to provide better credit lines and when and where. So small businesses, farming communities, everything. So Sicredi is the ultimate use case of open banking for the US to take advantage of. So, and there is another paradox as well. In the open banking scenario, we are eliminating third parties and aggregation perspectives, right? In many sorts. If you realize, if a credit union realize that they can go through and talk to the big banks, talk to the other parts of the market, the smaller community banks, the big 4 or big 10, they can do that. And they can bring data in as well. The big banks can get your data out, yes, but the opposite is also right. And if you serve the underserving, who is going to win? So you have better services. You have a better community relationship. You have a branch that served this community for many generations. Who is going to win? It's a no-brainer. So open banking can bring leverage for the credit unions, for them to win over the big 5 easily. Because again, all about the community. And we are eliminating frictions, eliminating third parties that taking this too costly. It's too expensive to go there. Oh, I need a third party to do that. I need a third party to do that. You don't. You need to sit down and see what are the options, what are the partnerships that a credit union can establish directly with the other stakeholders, with fintechs, with the other banks, how they can do that. And there is technology out there that can enable. So it's not a rocket science in terms of technology. And credit unions can do. Sicredi, Unicred, both are customers that are serving those communities in Brazil like no one else. So this is the power of the open banking right now.
One thing I want to dive into on this trust paradox, and we talked a little bit about it, privacy, security. Let's unpack that a little bit. Why is open banking more secure? And could you address this screen scraping element that I think too many US credit unions and banks are still relying on?
So data, if you're not sharing, you're being scraped, right? They are going to have the data, like it or not. Okay. Doing it in a way that is secured, well designed, and consented. It's way better than being scraped and have your data through a third party. That even if you agree with this third party, you don't know where this data is sitting.
That was my case, right? I have no idea.
You have no idea where my data going. I don't know. I have to sign an agreement with the third party that I freaking know where.
But it's even worse than that, because you don't know where it's going. You don't know what they're going to do with it.
Exactly.
Which is even more scary.
And the point is, if I have a data leak with an institution that I don't know, my credit union is ABC, and I sign an agreement with institution X, you don't remember institution X. And if you have a data leak on institution X, you think, oh, I'm safe. But in reality, your data is leaking. So I'm not going to recall that I signed an agreement with the third party. I know that I have an agreement with my credit union. So
that's an excellent point. I have no idea who that company is, and I wish I would have taken a screenshot, but it was so fast. And to your point, it was like feeling bullied into doing it. But I have no money in there, so if they sell anything, they're not going to get a lot back. Were you going to make an additional comment, Paolo?
Yeah, it's like each one of us uses messaging applications. It could be email, it could be WhatsApp, it could be whatever. Now, if you allow a third party to screen scrape, it's like saying to anybody, you can read my email, you can read my messages, even if I'm not there.
Yep.
You know, so, but would you like that? I mean, I would, you know. And they say, oh, well, you have nothing to hide. You have things to hide. You know, you have your bank account numbers. You have your transactions on your credit card. It's not about hiding them. It's to say, look, that's my business. You know, it's not anybody else's business to see that. So that's what screen scraping does. It gives everybody a license to kind of snoop into what you're doing. Yep. And then, you know, sell that information and God knows where that goes. You know, because when you sign an agreement with a third party, in the small print it says, by the way, we can use this data. Okay. And nobody, because everybody is there. So, okay, I need to sign this thing. And, you know, otherwise I don't get my account open. So almost nobody looks at the fine print.
Yeah.
You know? But what you say, yeah, sure, look into everything. I have nothing to hide.
Yep. And this is the member perspective, right? So I don't want to sign a contract with a third party. I want to open an account with the credit union, right? But let's take in scope of the credit union side, which they are limited in resources and technology. And they're relying on those third party to actually have this up and running, right? And this is the cost of not owning the platform and thinking that the open banking is too expensive. So for the credit unions out there, it's not. So again, some third parties are there to lock you up. Some third parties are there to open up the strategy. So it's really like a balance. So in this point that you have aggregators and relying on open finance, open banking strategy and aggregators, yes, it can speed it up. We all agree on that. You're going to have, quote, access to other institutions. Although, think about it for a second. It's your open banking strategy, or this is something generic that will force your users to do something that they don't really know. Because it's not a credit union open banking strategy. And think about deeper. The strategies that the aggregator have, everybody else in the market already have as well. Where is your differentiation? None. So everybody else have as well. So it's like fear of missing out. So it's me too. So your open banking strategy needs to focus on the credit union business and community, not on a generic open banking aggregation. So again, this is the trust paradox for me. It's like, yes, spinning up versus open. And here's a catch. You can have the aggregators at the beginning to speed up your strategy. And at the same time, put a leash on them, having your APIs. And slowly discontinuing those things that you don't like in the aggregators to have your strategy. It's not like black and white. So this is the most important part for the credit unions in my perspective. Because for the member, as a credit union member as well, I don't want a third party. I want to be my credit union customers only.
Well, and the next generation of members are going to have higher expectations. We're down to our final couple minutes. So I want to recap what I've heard and then ask you, is there a gap in what we've heard or a final piece of advice? So what I'm hearing is the trust paradox is fueled by screen scraping and a lack of privacy and security management between the member and the credit union. The second is closed banking, that I've got to keep everything here because it's safer. And the last is legacy and that pullback of what that does to innovation. So the question is, are there any other gaps that are holding back the credit unions? And what's your advice to them to move forward? And we've got about 3 minutes, so I'm going to ask for about a minute and a half from each of you.
Okay, that's tough. Closed banking is a myth. There is no closed banking. Your account, if you give your credentials away, your banking, you're not doing closed banking. You know, you're doing, everybody can have a shot at you banking, okay? So let's put it aside. Maybe we should rename open banking to kind of safe banking, customer keeping banking,
member care banking.
Member care banking, enriching your potential banking, ability to target young ones banking. Maybe we should rename it to that. That would be my 1 minute take.
Excellent.
My minute take is basically ownership. So don't be afraid to go out there and see what are the use cases that you can do with open banking. Don't rely the entire strategy over a third party. Have partners or have the implementation that allows you to explore the potential of a credit union, especially inside your community. Open banking, if I can rename it, we can say community banking, which is exactly the purpose of the credit union. So we can better serve communities, which is the end game for a credit union. Don't be afraid of the big five because they're not there to serve communities. You are. So open banking fear, remember, it's a two-way street. They can go out there, but also they can come back. And from my perspective, you have a branch in a community for centuries. Who is better in serving this community? Yeah. So this is open banking.
I want to thank you both for your insights and hopefully motivating our credit union leaders out there. I know when I've met with many of our credit union executives in the United States, they've said they're waiting for people to move, to understand. To Torqueto's point, there are global examples of people that are not only moving, but they're innovating and what I'll call member-centric banking. So with that, we're going to conclude today's podcast schedule here at APIX. We so appreciate you tuning in. We will have these on demand, so make sure that if you liked this one, there's a lot more to listen to. And with that, I want to thank you. Thank you for joining us at APIX 2025 for Sensedia Talks, and we will see you next year. Bora!